The most wishlisted game on Steam is delayed. Square Enix sold some of their biggest studios, District 9's director is making a Battle Royale game, and much more on This Week in Gaming. Hey guys, Levelcap here, and the most wishlisted game on Steam was delayed till next year because the developers are switching it over to Unreal Engine 5. The Day Before is an upcoming zombie survival MMO that seems like it's finally delivering on the promise made by games like DayZ and H1Z1 nearly 10 years ago. And before we get on to the rest of the story, I first have a quick word from today's sponsor. I love playing video games, so much so that I would often make my meals as fast as possible so that I could get back to gaming, which means I would usually heat up some gross, unhealthy frozen meal. If only there was a way to get a quick meal that was healthy and tasted great. Well, today's sponsor Factor provides that exact service with never frozen microwavable meals shipped right to your door. And no joke, these taste fantastic and can be heated in 2 minutes flat. It's literally faster making these meals than a frozen meal, and they're actually good for you. Plus, when you sign up at Factor, you can also input whatever dietary restrictions you might have, and Factor will put together all your meals to meet your dietary needs. Their meal plans offer a ton of variety with rotating weekly meal menus of over 25 different meal options and add-ons. One night, my wife and I needed a break from cooking for the kids, so we heated up some Factor meals, and I am not joking, my kids ate their meals faster than I've seen them eat anything. Then they try to eat mine as well. And if you're a parent, you'll know that getting your kids to willingly eat something healthy rarely happens. So now we're doing a Factor dinner once per week, and my kids are loving it. The service is an actual game changer and one that you have to go try for yourself. Head to go.factor75.com/levelcap120 and use code levelcap120 to get $120 off. That's not a measly $20 off, that's $120 off. Once again, head to go.factor75.com/levelcap120 and use the code levelcap120 to get $120 off. Go now and thank me later. Alright, back to The Day Before. Previews and gameplay footage of The Day Before have been very impressive. It was originally scheduled to launch on June 21st this year, but it'll instead launch on March 1st, 2023. Switching to Unreal Engine 5 will help make the game more advanced and well adapted to its open world design. The game is set in a post-pandemic America infested with zombies. Looting and traversal are big elements of the game. Players will find themselves in abandoned stores, houses, urban centers, and more. If the engine switch means those locations can be more realistic and expansive, it sounds like it'll be worth the wait. What they've already shown of the game has been very impressive visually. It'll be exciting to see what the developers accomplish with Unreal Engine 5's updated tools. What do you guys think about The Day Before? DayZ has been surging in popularity thanks to coverage by big streamers and new content creators, but The Day Before looks like the next evolution of what DayZ offers. Is it a game that you're interested in? Let us know in the comments. Massive developer, publisher, and powerhouse Square Enix sold off 4 of their biggest studios to Embracer Group for $300 million. Square has made or published dozens of hit titles and franchises for the Japanese market like Final Fantasy, Kingdom Hearts, and Nier. But their Western franchises, including Deus Ex and Tomb Raider, are household names and titans of the gaming industry. This sale mainly affects those Western titles. It includes the rights to dozens of IPs like the company's Marvel license, Dragon Quest, and more. And the deal is surprising at first glance, but it makes a lot of sense when you see how poorly some of these titles have performed recently. Square's expectations for their games are often too ambitious. Despite selling over 3 million copies and turning a healthy profit, their 2013 Tomb Raider reboot was considered a disappointment. Their Marvel's Avengers and Guardians games grossly underperformed and cost the company over $200 million in losses. Their flagship live service looter shooter Outriders also failed to turn a profit since launching in 2021. Ultimately, this deal represents a monumental shift in ownership of some insanely influential franchises. Square has certainly let several of them languish over the years, so all things considered, Embracer's buyout might ultimately be an improvement for Deus Ex and Gex fans. Movie director Neil Blomkamp of District 9 and Chappie has joined Gunzilla Games as their chief visionary officer on an upcoming Battle Royale game called Off the Grid. The title is set in a cyberpunk world and features a narratively driven progression system. Think Battle Royale with optional story missions and a pseudo-campaign built into every match. Players will join one of 3 factions, and which faction you choose changes the narrative perspective. It sounds a bit like the Cycle or Hunt Showdown. And while it's unclear what the visionary officer for a game actually does, it's evident that Blomkamp's cyberpunk aesthetic is all over the game's teaser footage. The director also has a long history of working alongside the game industry. He was originally tapped to direct a Halo movie before making District 9, and that project was so slow to get off the ground that he produced a short film set in the Halo universe to help convince executives to speed things up. Unfortunately, the studios involved couldn't agree on anything and scrapped the project entirely. More recently, Blomkamp directed a trailer-style short film for BioWare's Anthem as part of his Oats Studio production company. A series of shorts created by Oats was released on Steam to gauge interest in further development. Off the Grid is tentatively scheduled for a 2023 launch. Activision Blizzard shareholders recently voted in approval of the company's acquisition by Microsoft for $68 billion. The vote was a significant step towards the deal's approval, but it sounds like not all the shareholders are happy with the agreement. One group based in New York City is suing CEO Bobby Kotick and the other board members for their misconduct affecting the company's share prices. They argue that Kotick's involvement in covering up workplace harassment incidents and the board failing to deal with his misconduct contributed to the current scandal surrounding the company, and that caused the share prices to drop over 40%. Xbox head Phil Spencer was in negotiations to buy the company from Kotick within 24 hours of a Wall Street Journal article proving that Kotick knew what was going on. It detailed years of Kotick knowing what was going on behind the scenes, failing to address key workplace harassment issues, and even personally intervening to prevent at least one executive accused of sexual assault from being fired. Spencer and Kotick made this deal after share prices had hit the 40% drop in value. The shareholders are essentially saying Kotick is liable for the decline in value, and adding fuel to the fire, this week Activision's board voted against creating an annual report detailing the company's efforts to prevent abuse, harassment, and discrimination. The report was requested by the state of New York. They're demanding similar reports from other major companies like Microsoft, Tesla, and Starbucks. The vote casts even more doubt on the company's efforts to improve and also brings into question how transformative the Xbox acquisition will actually be. Kotick will remain as CEO during the transition, and it's unclear if other board members will follow him when he leaves. Battlefield 2042's most popular portal modes are here to stay. Flashback Conquest and Infantry Conquest proved to be some of the community's favorite official portal options, but they've been in and out of rotation since first being introduced. From now on, DICE are leaving them in as permanent options. Beyond this official news, data mining has revealed rib boats, jet skis, new cosmetics, cancelled specialist abilities, and more buried in 2042's recent files and technical playtest build. Video game documentary group Noclip released an hour-long gameplay presentation from a cancelled Half-Life 2 spin-off called Ravenholm. It was in development at Arcane Studios, the makers of Prey, Dishonored, Deathloop, and other popular titles. Ravenholm was eventually cancelled due to creative constraints trying to make it fit before the events of Half-Life 2 Episode 2. Noclip were invited to play a build of the game while filming a more extensive documentary about the studio itself. The gameplay has all the hallmarks of a work-in-progress title: missing textures, broken AI, poor performance, placeholder assets, etc., but it's a fascinating look behind the curtain at development of the Half-Life franchise. It also highlights some mechanics that would appear in later titles, like the electric wire puzzles of Half-Life Alyx and physics-based environmental damage systems. The next season of Apex Legends is launching on May 10th. Respawn released a gameplay trailer showcasing Newcastle, the new hero coming with the update. His abilities include a passive that shields enemies while being revived and lets him drag the downed player around. His tactical is a mobile shield that can be repositioned, but has a top and bottom half that enemies can break independently. Finally, his ultimate is a massive fortress that protects your squad and launches Newcastle into the air. He pushes enemies back within a certain radius of his landing. Before we get to our final story today, I just wanted to say thanks for tuning in. If you're looking for more videos to check out, don't miss our coverage of Star Citizen's latest update. You'll find it linked at the end of today's video. The Esports Integrity Commission has announced additional sanctions following a 2-year investigation of the CSGO coaching bug exploit. This bug gave the coach of a CSGO team a spectator's perspective on the match and was abused in official tournaments. In total, they've announced sanctions against 134 people. 37 coaches had already been sanctioned in an initial wave of penalties early in the investigation. 4 of the newly sanctioned coaches were scheduled to participate in Valve's upcoming Antwerp Major event. Majors are CSGO's biggest tournaments. Wins and losses at these events are incredibly consequential, not just to the standings of teams, but to the competitive scene for the game in general. 3 of the coaches have been barred from the tournament, while 1 is being allowed to compete since his version of the exploit was accidental and didn't impact the match's outcome. And that wraps it up for this week in gaming. As always, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.